It is my distinct honor to introduce our next speaker, Wells Fargo's Chairman, President, and CEO, John Stumpf. Before Wells Fargo, John began his work life on the farm, where he developed the work ethic and the values that all of the team members at Wells Fargo look up to every single day. John began his career in '82 as the former Norwest Corporation working in the loan administration department. He held numerous positions in management, including being a regional president in states like Colorado and Arizona and Texas. And since we do things big in Texas, John led Norwest acquisition of 30 Texas banks, and that valued at more than $13 billion. So he's not a stranger to mergers. When Norwest and Wells Fargo merged in 1998, he served in numerous leadership roles. In 2007, John was named as Wells Fargo's Chief Executive Officer. In December of 2008, he led one of the largest bank mergers in history with the purchase of Wachovia. John became Wells Fargo's chairman in 2010, and in 2013, he was named the Banker of the Year by the American Banker magazine. Of course, John is active in the community. He serves on the board of directors of the Clearing House, the Financial Services Roundtable, Target Corporation, and Chevron Corporation. He also serves on the board of trustees of the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. My personal experience with John is that what you see is what you get. And every time you're with him, you are the most important thing to him in that moment, despite all of his other responsibilities. He holds that one-of-a-kind leadership trait, and he's a long-standing LGBT ally. So please join me with a warm welcome, John Stumpf.
Thank you. Now that's enough, that's enough. Thank you, thank you. I brought my own cheering group along. So I just got to look here just for a second. There are 3 times as many people in this room than in my hometown. In fact, many of our teammates from Wells Fargo know this story, but I'm going to tell it anyhow. I'm the second oldest of 11 children on a family farm in northern Minnesota. And people, especially in California, 11 kids in 13 years, how'd you do that? I said, well, I was a result, I wasn't part of it. And I said, if you're Catholic and use rhythm, it really helps you along the way. But I get these 2 questions all the time. Number 1, how many bathrooms did you have in that little house of yours on the farm? And the answer is we had 1. We also had an outhouse, but you wouldn't dare use it in the wintertime, and they wouldn't find you until Mother's Day. And the second question is much more interesting. How many bedrooms did you have in this home, in this little house? And the answer is we had a north room for the boys, where I slept with my 6 brothers, and we had a south room where my 4 sisters slept. And in the north room, we had 3 little double beds. And back those days, you could not divide 7 evenly by 3. So there was 2 in one bed, 2 in the second bed, and 3 in the third bed. And since I was the oldest of the boys, I slept between my brother Philip and my brother Stephen. And that's the way life was. In fact, I never got a chance to sleep alone until I got married. All right, okay. Old joke, I get it. I'm going to do 3 things today, and please keep eating. Don't stop for me. I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey to inclusiveness. Let me put this down so we can see here, because I can't see you. There you go. I want to talk a little bit about our company's journey to inclusiveness, and then I want to talk about moving forward. The little town I grew up in, I was actually on the farm, was all German, was all Catholic. The only diversity we had men and we had women. When I went to St. Cloud State University the fall of 1972, I remember calling my dad a month after I was there in the dorm. It's about 10 o'clock at night, and I said, Dad, I got some pretty serious news for you. I'm pretty sure there's a Lutheran living on our floor, a guy named Peterson. And it was my first experience with difference. After working in the Twin Cities for a while, and then working in Colorado, my two children and my wife and I moved to San Antonio, Texas. It was my first real experience with difference. It was the first time in my life, in our lives, that we did not have the unearned privilege and protection of the majority. Our children went to Catholic schools. I remember our daughter, first day of school, you bring in a picture of when you were a baby, within your first week or two of life. They put up on a bulletin board, and the one who was picked last got a prize. She was the only white kid. They picked her right away. And she said, "This is not fair." I remember going to PTA meetings where I became a counter. I would try to count people of the parents who looked something like me. And the uneasiness it felt on what do you wear? And can you sneak into the room kind of unnoticed and find someone for some protection? Not that anybody was going to do anything bad to me, but it was an eye-opening experience. And the kindness of strangers who were allies, who made a difference in our lives. I remember coming here to San Francisco in 2002 and having a lesbian woman report to me, and she invited me to her house to meet her wife, well, at the time partner, and their two children. And the buzz around the bank that the head of, I think I was running the community banking business at the time, and how much fun we had with Carol and her family. And to be able to talk about the loneliness of showing up at work and people talk about their families, their weekends, and she being passed over. In fact, Renee Brown introduced me today, who's one of our absolute brightest stars in our Wells Fargo constellation. And we actually had a little meeting to prepare for my time with you today. And there were a number of people on the phone, a number of people around the office, and we're talking about Out and Equal and being here for the first time and India. And Renee said something as just a by the way. She said, "I'm getting married this weekend." That minute, this became a side conversation. It was all about Renee at that minute. I learned about her 17-year relationship. I learned about the surprise, and we had this wonderful conversation about the wholeness of Renee Brown. So let me just go back to my hometown for one more minute, and then I'll talk about our company. If you go back to my little hometown today in northern Minnesota, still 952 people. There's still not a stop light in town. Nobody'd stop anyhow. Still one church and 3 bars, still there. But it's changed. Because I was lucky that I had parents who valued and continue to value people. And when people say that, it's usually they value but. And usually anything before but is BS. It's what's after but that really counts. My parents love people, period. The wholeness of the person. And you do harvest what you sow. Today they have 35 grandchildren. 5 are African Americans, adopted into our family. Three of them are Latinas, adopted into our family. My nephew last year came out to our family and we celebrated his wholeness as a family. So if inclusiveness and wholeness can impact a big family in a small town, think what it can do for business and for communities and countries. And Wells Fargo has been impacted. Thank you for coming to San Francisco. This is the home of Wells Fargo. There was a Wells and there was a Fargo. They started as a small business. They'd started American Express in 1851. And in 1852, after the Louisiana Purchase, they decided to, or sometime in that time, they decided to have a stagecoach and commerce business across the West. And from the very early start of the company, they talked about serving people and their advocacy for inclusiveness. We have 265,000 team members. 97% of our business is here in the US. We serve thousands and thousands and millions of customers. We do business 1 in 3 Americans. And we've been the number 1 or 2 philanthropic organization from both our team members and corporate perspective for a long, long time, many, many years. So, and those who have come before me in our company have made huge investments in important areas, especially with respect to our investment in our LGBT team members, customers, and the communities in which we work and live. In 1986, we made our first gift or investment in an LGBT cause. In 1987, we changed our non-discrimination policy to include sexual orientation. By 1991, we sponsored our first Pride Parade. This year we did over 50 of them. They're a whole lot of fun. In 1998, the first financial services company to provide for benefits for domestic partners. Very early in the game. By 2004, the first financial company to join the Gay Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. By 2009, we've now accredited our Wells Fargo advisors to help families with domestic partners of all the uniquenesses around that. And 3 years ago, we now have an LGBT development program to help our team members move ahead. I am the chairman of and the leader of our Diversity and Inclusiveness Council. I would never let that work 2-3 levels down with reporting. I want to own that because I think my job more than anything else is keeper of the culture. In fact, while this is a really big crowd and a really important meeting, it's my second most important meeting today. The first most important was I spent 2 hours with our Diversity and Inclusiveness Council, and we talked about LGBT issues just this morning. In fact, some of my LGBT team members and some of the folks on the Diversity Council are here with us today. Would you please stand so I can just recognize you? And because we're such a large company with 265,000 team members, we want to make sure people really own the culture. And we help do that by having team member network groups. We have 10 different groups, one of those being Pride. Pride has 50 different chapters across the company with over 6,000 team members as part of Pride, both Pride members and allies. Would some of you stand up, please, who are with our... So you might ask, does it make sense to have team members and all these customers and these different things that we do to support our communities and all the other things that we do to create this inclusiveness culture? Does that really make sense? We have a booklet called Our Vision and Values. There's 40 pages that tell you everything that really is salient about our company. There are 2 full pages on diversity and inclusiveness. There's no topic that carries as much weight in this document as that. And I like to tell people the payoff. We are the 21st largest bank in the world. We never set out to be the largest. We're not even the largest in the US. There's 3 banks larger, some of them 50, 60% larger than we are. But consider this. Our market capitalization, the way the market values us, our stock price times our number of shares, Wells Fargo is the most valuable bank in the world. And I think a big part of that credit goes to our wonderful team members who get up every morning and take care of customers and take care of each other. So where do we go from here? There are a number of things that Out and Equal and Wells Fargo and other great organizations who advocate for non-discrimination, for inclusiveness, find parallel paths. One of those areas is anti-bullying. Now, you would think in a hometown where I grew up, since it was such a homogeneous population, that there was freedom from bullying. Not the case at all. In fact, if you were from town, and if you had some means and you were an athlete, you were the top of the rung. If you were from a farm, and if you were slow, and if you were poor, you were picked on. But nothing compares to what happens to our LGBT children in junior high school and high school, at a time of formation when it's so important. In fact, the numbers I've read are something at 80 or 85, or at least 80% of those children. I also read that their number one concern is being outed, being bullied, family issues, where their non-LGBT classmates are worrying about college, what school they're going to get into, and their future. So we've invested with you and with GLSEN, for example, a great organization, to help get safe places in the schools, pamphlets, I think, to now 60,000 schools across the country. We developed an internal communication tool and video to help support this whole idea of creating a safe place to work and all those things. On the 16th of October, I was in my best purple, supporting Spirit Day. We've used our 12,500 national ATM network, and with the support of GLAD to get the message out there. So that's a big emphasis for us and for you, and I can't congratulate you enough. Secondly, with respect to anti-discrimination, you heard it just a few minutes ago, that I think we're at a tipping point now. We're on the right side of the argument. Changes are happening quickly, but not every place. Of our 265,000 team members, last year 40,000 were promoted. A bigger job, more compensation, more opportunity. That's how people move up in our company. We promote from within it. We have a historical bias for that. But there are still 29 states that don't recognize, or say the other way, are problematic for some of our team members. Marriages aren't recognized there. Or you could fire someone or not hire someone for who they are. So these are things that are important to us, important to our company, and important to creating wholeness within our team member ranks. We only have 265,000 people. We want everyone to be all they can be, and not only a safe place, but a place where their uniqueness, their difference, is encouraged and celebrated and rewarded. So let me end with this. There was a lot of discourse and disagreement and dysfunctionality in our political system. There was an election last night. A lot of things going on. But let me end on a high note. I am absolutely over-the-top optimistic about America. First of all, 97% of our revenues are here. 97% of our people are here. I don't gamble, but there's a game called Texas Hold'em. Apparently, you go all in if you like your hand. We are all in on America. We are all in on our team members. We're all in on non-discrimination. And we're all in on the future of our country. I was in London a few weeks ago, and then I made my way to Kazakhstan and ended up in Istanbul. And I don't travel internationally a lot, but most eyes in the world are back here to the US. And why would that be? We make stuff here the rest of the world wants to buy. You walk down a street, in any major street, in any city, in any country in the world, and they're walking like this, playing with an iPhone that's invented down the street, down the road from here in San Francisco. We have the best post-secondary schools on the planet. Families of means or without means want to send their children here to post-secondary school. We change government every 2, 4, or 6 years without tanks on the street. We have the deepest, most transparent financial markets in the world. And yes, we have a history of playing ball together. We also have the gift of natural resources, and I think our future's bright. There'll be interim steps between now and then, but together, we can make America all it can be, and this can be the next greatest generation. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.